Bitcoin came from like zero to the United States of America president talking about it in 16 years. Imagine what can happen in the next 20 years. Your best chance of owning a home or owning a whole street of homes, of buying your family 10 houses in 20 years is Bitcoin. Work really hard, provide value for society, put in the proof of work, and everything that comes from that, from the fruits of this labor, put the fruits in the Bitcoin basket. Once we found Bitcoin, everything we knew before about money has to be thrown out and put in a new context. When you look at how money is distributed, Gen Z has no money. The boomers have the money. This new generation, Bitcoin, has a real chance of being the first native Bitcoin generation. I would love to rename them in Generation Bitcoin, Generation B. Like that would be great because they are actually having a chance of never having to touch fiat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Orange Peel podcast. I'm your host, Nikki, and today I'm sitting down with someone who has probably had more Bitcoin conversations than anyone else alive right now. Seyr has done over 500 Bitcoin interviews, one every single day, with both legends in the space and everyday normies. We're going to be getting into why Gen Z needs Bitcoin right now, what Robin's learned from talking to people all over the entire world, and how he left his fiat job to go full-time Bitcoin. This one is going to be all about hope, hustle, and what happens when you make Bitcoin not just your money, but your entire lifestyle. Robin, thank you so much for joining me today. I know you've probably got a very packed schedule, so this means a lot.
Oh, thank you so much. No, I appreciate it. I always love talking Bitcoin, and hopefully I'm always in a position to do always every podcast invitation that I get, because this is what kind of got me started. Like before I even started the podcast, people invited me and this kind of gave me the idea like, I can do more in this space. This invitational, sphere and this generosity in the Bitcoin space is the thing that really allows newcomers to shine.
Absolutely. I think invitational interviews too, they're one of the best ways to learn. That's how I've been learning so much just in the past week that I've started doing these. But to kick things off, you're known as the guy who does a Bitcoin interview every single day, which is awesome. So how and why did you start this grind?
It was more accidental than a plan that I had. Maybe as you maybe also started. You started last week with that, you said.
I've been pushing out episodes for about 3 weeks now, but interviews have started last week.
Awesome, and congrats. That's
Thank
really
you.
Cool. And I started putting out content on Twitter before. I even did TikToks. I did like short form on Twitter. I did all kinds of things that I was like, hey, let's figure out what kind of style of video I want to make. And after a year, I needed 1 year to figure out what kind of content I want to make. I discovered like, hey, I can just invite the people that I already know on an online Google Meet, Zoom call, whatever, and just record it. And yeah, now I also use Riverside as you do, but nothing else really changed. I just invite people to speak and have a conversation. And this conversation I put on the internet, and it got so popular that I just got it more and more. I just wanted to do it more and more, and then it got to be a whole thing. And now I do it daily. So the daily thing went more accidental into existence, and not as a plan. Like, I want to do it every day. It's like, I was inviting a lot of people because I thought not a lot of people say yes. So I invited, I think like 50 people in the beginning, and I thought like maybe 5 people replied to me. But I think 48 or so replied to me, and like 45 said yes, or something like that. And then I had all of a sudden 45 interviews scheduled in like 2 weeks. And I was like, that's a whole lot of interviews to do in like a few weeks. And I did all the interviews, then I had a backlog of like, almost 2 or 3 months, because my plan was to release 1 podcast a week. That was my plan in my head. November saying like, I will do 1 podcast a week and that's it. Fortunately or unfortunately, I got so many more responses that I was like, okay, let's pump it up to 2 a week. And then I was like, I still have so many left, and let's do 3 a week. And then I was like, let's just do till I have 0 in my backlog. I just do once every day, and then I go back to 3 or 4 a week. And then people loved the daily format. When I switched to daily, all of a sudden a lot more people showed up. A lot more people like, oh shit, you do it every day, and people loved it so much that I was like, okay, this is something I can contribute to the Bitcoin paradigm shift. This is something that I can contribute to Bitcoin, because people obviously like it and do. Yeah, they do like it. And so I was like, okay, maybe I have to stick with it. And the longer I stick with it, the harder it is now to get out of the daily thing. But honestly, now it's a blessing, to have it a daily, because I have now a team that does the post-production. So it's no longer that much work. Till the end of last year, it was a lot of work to do it every single day. As you now start doing videos, you see how much effort goes into one episode.
Right.
This is what the people see is like 1 hour or 2 hour conversation. This is the least amount of work you have to do. For every episode that is an hour long, you have to work like 4 or 5 hours more to get it polished, to get everything right, to organize everything. It starts from inviting guests to researching guests to figuring out all the processes and infrastructure around it, and all the purchasing power that also goes in all the tools and the team that you, and there's a lot more towards a 1 hour conversation than just a conversation. But I'm getting closer to just have the conversation, have everything else be done by a team that is just way better than me in all of those things. So long story short, I love doing it daily now. It got to be my unique selling point of the podcast, the unique thing on my podcast. And I have to plan now to do it till I die. Like I want to do a podcast every single day. Probably not on Bitcoin. Probably at some point, Bitcoin will just be our money, and it will be boring to talk about it because Bitcoin is the denomination of our life. And then at that point, why should we still talk about it? The same way, like we don't have a podcast about the TCP/IP protocol. The same way in, 30 years, we will not have a podcast about the Bitcoin protocol because like people are like, oh, of course, yeah, Bitcoin is here. Like, people will not do that. So very long story, very short story and very long answer packed. I will do a Bitcoin podcast every single day till I get bored with Bitcoin and find a new topic.
I look forward to seeing every single one of those Bitcoin podcasts that you plan to put out. But with this Bitcoin paradigm shift that, you've been talking to people about, was there one conversation or one interview that you did that just maybe wrecked the way that you thought about Bitcoin completely?
Yeah, this was very early on, Jeff Booth. I think he's one that really... So I had Bitcoin 4 years before I started the podcast. Like I was into Bitcoin 3-4 years before I even started the podcast, and I also did content for a year before I started the podcast. So obviously, I was quite deep into the into the Bitcoin space. But there were certain things that I wasn't aware of. The main thing is how to store Bitcoin. This is something that I was very lazy to learn actually before I started the podcast, and then all my podcast guests came up and like pushed me towards more and more a sovereignty mindset. So I had self-custody from day one since I had Bitcoin, but my self-custody setup wasn't as good as it should be. So improving my self-custody setup, getting the UTXO management clean, getting everything done in that way, I think that's probably for me individually the biggest learning that I had with the podcast, because I already knew before I started the podcast that Bitcoin was a big deal. That's kind of why I started the podcast. And then the other thing that changed is how fundamental Bitcoin really is. Before, I thought Bitcoin is a very, very great asset, and maybe it has an opportunity to be some kind of money. But I didn't thought about Bitcoin as a foundational invention. I thought more about an asset or a product innovation. Foundational innovations for me are the printing press, the wheel, fire, like things that are very foundational that will change on a foundational layer. The wheel is a very old invention and we still use it every single day, like cars, train, everything runs on the wheel. And the similar thing I see with Bitcoin, where once we found Bitcoin, everything we knew before about money has to be thrown out and put in a new context. And that's why I love, I just guessed, but you also probably Gen Z, having this money for our new generation, can be really, really powerful, because now as Gen Z, I'm one of the oldest Gen Zs. Like I'm like right at, I think till 1997, you're Gen Z and I'm 1998. So I'm one of the older Gen Zs. And I think our generation still grew up with fiat. We still have fiat denomination pocket money from our parents. We still have fiat denomination our first jobs, in our first internships, and then our first real jobs. Maybe we founded a company, there we have to deal with fiat. So we will be kind of the first hybrid generation where we can be almost Bitcoin native and almost Bitcoin only most of our lives, because now we are like 20 years old. And in 20 years, we will be still 40, so super young still, we're 40 years old. Then we will still have, depends on how medical things develop, probably 50, 60, maybe 70 years ahead of us. So we will have a lot of time, and Bitcoin came from like zero to the United States of America president talking about it in 16 years. Imagine what can happen in the next 20 years, going from a $0 asset to a $2 trillion asset within just 16 years. This is a huge development. Having this foundational shift in just 16 years shows us that the next steep curve that will come in the next 20 years will be even bigger. So the point I was making is Gen Z is one of the native Bitcoin generation, because the real financial life, in my opinion, starts with 25, 30, 35, when you actually get either a company or a big job, or you provide for your family, then you have husband or wife, and you have a family with like 1, 2, 3 kids. And all of a sudden, maybe you have a home, and like the financial life really, like the responsibility starts and all that. And when you look at how money is distributed, Gen Z has no money. The boomers have the money. So the financial life really starts later on, when you see where the real money is. And then it gets even funnier when we look at the Gen Y and the previous generations to Gen Z. What are they going to do? Or like the generation, I really hate calling this generation like that, but generation beta, the new generation that is, I think, right now born. I would love to rename them in Generation Bitcoin, Generation B. Like that would be great, because they are actually having a chance of never having to touch fiat. If today in 2025 a baby is born, this baby probably doesn't have to touch money the next 15 years. Like till 15, we don't really touch money that much. Our parents touch money for us. Maybe you have some pocket money. Maybe you get an ice cream with like 12 years old and go there. Let's say till 15, like you're pretty, you don't have to deal with money that much. And then you're born in 2025. So the first time you actually interact with money is then with 2040. Where is Bitcoin in 2040? I do think Bitcoin is a normal monetary system that is just generally accepted to be paid in Bitcoin, to pay in Bitcoin. Then people, and it can be a hard discussion talking about like, will fiat still be around? But even if it's still around, it will be not as dominant as it is now. So this new generation, Bitcoin, has a real chance of being the first native Bitcoin generation. And I see it as the responsibility of Generation C and Generation Millennials generation, so I'm one above us, that we build this Bitcoin future for them. We have to now lay the grounds. That's why I already earn in Bitcoin and pay in Bitcoin, because I want to put financial power towards those payment mechanisms. There is providers and companies that build out those ecosystems, because if we don't build it out, the next generation cannot benefit from it. So this is something, I think I went on a little tangent here, but I think this is one major thing I learned is this invention of Bitcoin is so foundational that it will change all our lives, and it is in our responsibility to really make it count.
Agreed. I think a lot of Gen Z right now are fully aware of the fact that, or at least young adults were very aware of the fact that Bitcoin definitely has a very strong place in the future. But one of the things that's holding us back a little bit is I think a lot of us believe we have time, and we are kind of adverse to maybe buying Bitcoin right now or moving away from fiat, looking at how to earn in Bitcoin rather than, earn in our fiat traditional student jobs kind of stuff. Why do you think Gen Z in particular needs to hop on Bitcoin right now as opposed to maybe 5 years down the road?
I think for Gen Z, it's the same same reason for everyone. A Gen Z maybe has more time than someone that is now 70 years old, but Gen Z also has a bigger opportunity than someone is now 70 years old. So if we, So I will give first the argument why anyone should pay attention to Bitcoin right now, and then maybe we can break it down for Gen Z specifically. Because for me, when we look at Bitcoin, you have to first ask yourself, okay, why does Bitcoin even make sense? And I encourage everyone to at least study it, to at least look in and saying like, okay, if this is so foundational, then as Robin says, or as someone else in the Bitcoin sphere says, like Microseed, Jeff Bucher, all of those people, or Natalie Prunell, then we have to look at if they are right, what can happen to Bitcoin? If they are right, so if we are right as Bitcoiners, Bitcoin will be sucking up about 50 to 60% of all the global assets, as it is the standard money of our lifetime. This is a little bit like sitting in the desert and saying, hey, I'll buy all of that land out there for free blueberries. And those free blueberries are later Las Vegas. And this is what happened to a lot of boomers, a lot of baby boomers that said like, hey, I have that asset, I have that real estate, and I got it inherit, or I bought it, as the meme goes, I bought it for free blueberries. And then later in life, for 20, 30 years later, I sold it for 20 million. Or I didn't even sell it. Like I just borrowed against it and I got like millions from that. And the same chance is now here with Bitcoin. Now, this is a very strong argument for Gen Z because Gen Z cannot buy a home. We are so far away from buying a home than any other generation. Millennials are always saying, oh, we cannot buy a home. For Gen Z, the problem is 20 times worse. We are so further away from buying a home than for the millennials. I think I don't know a single Gen Z person that owns a home. Like in my personal life, and there's probably like a lot of Gen Zs out there that own a home, but I don't know any Gen Z person. Do you? Like, there is no Gen Z person in my personal life. If you know someone in Gen Z,
I know nobody.
Exactly. And how many boomers, baby boomers, or maybe even millennials do you know that own a home? Like a lot more. Of course, they're also older, but it just gets harder and harder to actually own a home. What opportunity do we have? What can we buy now for even like a $1 right now that has the potential to be $100 or $200 down the road? Something that we can save in, something that we can believe in, something that gives our generation a little bit of hope, a little bit of let's see if we can also achieve something. And the funny thing is, this Bitcoin thing will actually make house prices come down drastically. So if you want to have a home with, let's say 40 years old, when you build a family with 5 kids and have a husband or a wife, you have to get into Bitcoin right now. Because if you look at the Bitcoin price development, you see like, oh, it's going up only. If you look at the real estate price development only, you're like, oh, it's going up only. But if you look at the real estate price development measured in Bitcoin, you're like, real estate prices crashing down. And all those boomers, all those baby boomers have real estate. And we are putting our money into Bitcoin. And then the financial energy slowly gets from the real estate portion to the Bitcoin portion. So you have the beautiful balancing act of your Bitcoin stack keeps getting more and more, not only in nominal terms, but also in purchasing power. And then the real estate that you don't hold because you want to hold the Bitcoin, but the real estate that someone else, another generation holds, gets less and less and less. And so this is very especially important for younger generations. So like everyone is under 30 years old, very, very important, but also for older people. If you are 70 years old and you have 20 homes or like 20 real estate properties, you should look at either financing them to get into Bitcoin or just sell them and get into Bitcoin. This is a very real thing of putting your financial energy where the future is, not where the present is. Right now, there is 30 trillion US dollars right now in real estate. Is it real estate really? Like it's huge. Bitcoin is 2 trillion. It's if Bitcoin comes to the same market capitalization than real estate, it's 150x from here. And of course, there will always be value in real estate. Like a house will always have some kind of price, but a house should not cost so much? Why does a house cost so much? Like, have you ever thought about why home prices go up? Because if you really think about it, you buy a home in 2020. This home is very newly built, is renovated, all the new shit is in there. In 2030, the same home is worth 5x more. But the home slowly gets rusty. It's no longer modern. The grass is longer. Like all the things that is wrong with houses already get into. So you have 2020 and 2030. 2020, a house is worth, let's say, $1 million. And in 2030, the pure value of like just seeing objectively the house is completely deteriorated. Everything is worse than in 2020, but it's worth $5 million. Why? Because we print a bunch of money and people store their wealth in houses. There is a lot of people that just buy an apartment for savings technology, for storing money. They don't even live in there. They don't even let someone else live in there because they don't need the income of the rent. And this is something else. There's a lot of political movement of saying like, oh, we need to rent control. Oh, like housing gets so expensive. How do we fix that? Bitcoin. If people don't save the money in real estate, but save the money in Bitcoin, we no longer have people that just save in real estate. So people actually are forced to make revenue with the real estate because the value appreciation no longer pays for that property. So you have a situation where people have to rent out their real estate or sell it. And then there's a lot more real estate coming on the market. What happens if a supply of something gets more and the demand stays the same? Because like the demand for housing is always the same. Like everyone wants to live somewhere. That's the demand for housing. If the supply gets more, what happens? The prices drop. So, and that's what we already see in the last 10 years measured in Bitcoin. Real estate is crashing down. And the interesting thing here is if you now are a Gen Z that is 20, 25, or even a guy that is 50 years old, your best chance of owning a home or owning a whole street of homes, of buying your family 10 houses in 20 years is Bitcoin. Work really hard, provide value for society, put in the proof of work and everything that comes from that, from the fruits of this labor. Put the fruits in the Bitcoin basket. That's the best basket. Everyone always says like, oh, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. But do you want to put an egg in? If you have two cruise ships and the one is the proven one, it is of steel, it's perfect, it's amazing. And the other one has gone down and it's the Titanic and it's really bad. Why would you put one of your kids on the Titanic and one of the kids on the good ship? Put both of your kids into the good ship. Like, let's keep all of our eggs in the good basket and survive. So I don't know why I went on this tangent, but my main point always is, oh yeah, like the why Gen Z needs to pay attention to Bitcoin. And basically everyone has to pay attention to Bitcoin. But Gen Z has a very special opportunity right now because we now, Gen Z, we slowly come to the market of workers now. We slowly start, like Gen Z is, I think, from 15, 16, 17 years old to like 27, something like that. Just about that range. So there are some that are still in school. There are some that just got started with the first internship. And then there are some that are already starting working. And there are some maybe that already started their own companies. And we always have those targets of like, oh, like you should get to 0.1 Bitcoin. You should get to 1 Bitcoin. For someone that is right now in Gen Z, if you can somehow have a Saturday job or have a side hustle or have something, so you get to 0.1 Bitcoin, you will be a freaking, how should I say that? You will be one of those very old rich boomers that you see running around with a Ferrari when they are 70 years old because they have no clue where to even put that whole money. You have 50, 60 years, 80 years maybe even in front of you. When you are retiring with like 70, 80, 90 years old, you will have so much freaking money, you won't believe it. And this is something hard to believe. And I don't like this whole price predictions and things like that. But this is the easiest way for people to actually make it clear of what happens when you accept Bitcoin as a store of value. We can also talk about the media exchange side of things and when you actually accept it as money. But this is always this is the superpower that you have in this Bitcoin paradigm shift, in this Bitcoin revolution. Just adopt it and work really hard. If you're now like 23 years old and you have, with 23 years old, you have so much energy. I work so much and I have so much energy. I know from when I talk with my older cousins that are like 35 years old, or maybe when I talk with my uncles that are like 40, 50 or 60 years old, that energy that you have now, this pristine physical and mental energy, use it as much as you can. Because if you now can put in the work effort to build the foundation when you're like 30, 40 years old, this will pay all your life. And so really take this message of like getting to 0.1 Bitcoin and take it to an extreme. 0.1 Bitcoin is now 10 grand. Everyone that lives, and you live in the US, everyone that lives in the US, this is possible, super easy. And if someone is now listening from Nigeria or from India, that's a whole nother game. Getting to $10,000 is way easier in the US, obviously, as it is in other countries. We have to, because it's English speaking, this podcast can come up in all different kinds of countries. So this is my main thing. Get to this point as quickly as possible and then don't stop. People always like, oh, like 0.1 Bitcoin is nothing. Yeah. If you had 0.1 Bitcoin, get to 0.2. Like don't stop at that numbers and just keep going, keep grinding, keep hustling, because it really pays off with 30, 40, 50. I cannot speak from experience, as I'm myself just 26 years old. I'm myself just a kid. I'm just, I'm a newborn baby in some regards. So really get to those numbers as quickly as humanly possible. You will thank me if you're 60 years old. Write me an email with 60 years old and either tell me I should go to hell, or you will thank me because I changed your life.
Wow. I'm gonna put that in my calendar. When I'm 60 years old, I'm gonna be sending you an email 100%.
I'm looking forward to it.
So 40 years down the line, which it brings me to this question. Bitcoin, obviously, as you framed it, is even having 0.1% of a Bitcoin puts us in that old, we're rich, very wealthy category, right? Which I'm sure a lot of us dream about. But how do we make Bitcoin feel less intimidating, less like maybe boomer finance, and more like something that is easily adopted by our generation?
It's a real thing. I don't know how your statistics on the YouTube look like, but when I look at my statistics, you are very rare. How old are you?
I'm 20.
Yeah, you're super rare. And I'm telling you this because most of my audience listens on YouTube. And on YouTube, I have the statistics that my average viewer is around 40, 50 years old. And I have 3 times more viewers above 65, under 25. So I have around 1.8, around 2% of my viewers are under 25 years old. So only 2% of my viewers are younger than 25. Under 20, I have like almost nobody. It's like very rare. And then there is over 65. There is, I don't know how many there are. I think 7%, something like that. And if you look at that scale of where people are, and there's one small kind of caveat to that. People sometimes lie on platforms to be older than they actually are to see the plus 18 content. I know I have done it. I know many have done it. And I always, when I talk about it, I want to give this thing. So I believe those 2% are probably more like 4, 5, 6, 7%, but not really a bigger thing. And when I look at like who joins my Telegram, who joins me in real life, who comes up in my conferences, it's almost always people that are at least twice my age.
Wow.
It's really fascinating to see. There's in Vegas actually came three young boys to me. I think they were around my age or like maybe a little bit younger. Was like I was stoked to see that. Like, huge, like people my age, my show. And also you said like in my show, Orange Builder. And I'm like, oh shit, like that's amazing. I love that because I want to make it for the younger generation. And the point I was making is when you deal with Bitcoin, you have one marketing problem that it is not a meme coin. It is not a get rich quick scheme. I talked purposely about timeframes around 20 years. I even talked about 50-year timeframes because I truly believe with Bitcoin, you won't be rich tomorrow. You won't. You buy Bitcoin today, tomorrow you will be worth the same thing. It will not be drastically different. Even in 1 year, I think if you buy Bitcoin today and in 1 year, you probably will be in a similar place than you are right now. It won't change your life. If you look at the last year, Bitcoin went up 80%. If you are now got to $10,000, you put $10,000 last year into Bitcoin, you now have $18,000. Did your life change? No, like it just didn't change. If you put last year $10,000 in a meme coin that goes up 2 quadrillion percentage, and you make from $10,000, all of a sudden you are a millionaire. Yeah, your life changed. And this is kind of the marketing problem that Bitcoin has. Get rich slow scheme. It makes you wealthy over time and slowly. And those meme coins look, especially for Gen Z, very intriguing. They're like, oh, yeah, I can just gamble my money on them and maybe I lose a bit, but I don't have money anyways. So if I just put like $200, $300, $400 into this meme coin, I might make 10 grand or I might lose them, but I don't care about losing $200 because I anyways have nothing. And this is something very disturbing for me because we are teaching young people that they should gamble the money in the casino rather than save for their future. And this only gets real once you get to the age of being responsible for someone else, getting to have kids, and actually thinking about how the heck do I save for a home, how the heck do I save for a car, how the heck do I save for my kid. Just so you know, kids are super expensive. I don't have a kid. Full disclosure. Kids are super duper expensive. Having all those responsibilities down the road forces you to make a lot of money and great decisions. And all of a sudden, the people that are in the age of like 30, 35, 45, they are dealing with like kids and all of those things. They no longer gamble. They no longer say, oh, let's put everything on black. Let's put everything in Dogecoin. That's no longer an option. Why? Because they are now not gambling with a little bit of money. They are gambling with their family's future. And if this is the case, you take things more serious. You research, you dive deeper. And in Bitcoin, you have to research and dive deeper. You don't understand Bitcoin on the first day you found it out. You understand Bitcoin a year later, 4 months later if you're fast, 3 years later if you're slow like me. I needed 4 years. And this gets me to this point of why Gen Z is not interested in Bitcoin. Because most of them, if you are 20 or 18 years old or 23, you don't have the responsibility. Chances are your parents still pay most of your shit. Chances are you might not even have to pay rent because you maybe live with them, or they have an apartment because they are boomers and they have an apartment free that nobody lived in and now they can give it to you. And you haven't dealt with financial responsibility. That's why it gives me a lot of hope seeing someone like you that is 21 years old. Oh, by the way, that's also wanted to say before. You're not only rare because you're 21 years old, you're also rare just because you're female. It's like I have about, I think 7% of my viewership is female. So it's very rare.
Wow, that's insane.
I do love the watches from Coin Vigilante, but today I have a very special message, not from me, but from the CEO himself, Carlos from Coin Vigilante. Let's hear him.
To all the Robin Seyr podcast community, I'm Carlos Estrada from Coin Vigilante, and we're sponsors of the show, and we're going to give you a very special discount exclusive to you, 10% off your order at coinvigilante.com when you use Robin at checkout. We have really nice watches that you guys can buy right now for 10%. This is a transparency edition, beautiful watch. These watches are worn in over 55 countries and counting. This discount is just for you, exclusive to the Robin Seyr podcast. We have limited editions, we have limited productions. These watches come in very nice packaging, boxing material, and they are collector's item for Bitcoiners only. Enjoy the discount. Thanks for supporting the show and Coin Vigilante.
I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They're also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. You get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Again, that's microseed.io to get your last backup tool you ever need. It's very insane. And I talked with Natalie Prunell. I think for her, it's 20%. So you have to think about a female host inviting a lot more female guests than I do, still only gets to 20%. So like we do have marketing problems for female no coiners that haven't gotten Bitcoin. But that's just a short tangent. But we have a marketing problem in general with Gen Z because they either want to gamble or don't do anything. They say, hey, if I have $500, either put it for a new PlayStation 5 and pre-order the next GTA 6, or I gamble it on a meme coin. Yeah, that's my options. Like most Gen Z stop thinking at that point. They have like, oh yeah, like gambling on a meme coin sounds fun because there I might get $5,000 and then I can buy the good PS5, the Pro one, and that's all they have. I'm myself Gen Z, so I'm talking low on myself here, and I know how I thought with 18, 19 about money. This was very different than I think right now. And the important part for me is you have to get to a state where you're financially responsible to actually get Bitcoin. And so I think it's okay for Bitcoin that Gen Z is not getting Bitcoin because they will get it anyways. They will wake up with 30 and see like, oh shit, I should have paid attention early to it. That's the good way. I have to save in Bitcoin and just provide value. I have something against that because I'm myself Gen Z and I don't like to see a generation that grows up poor because they gambled their future. And I had this epiphany of like, when I started this whole journey with my podcast with 25 years old, I thought to myself, I will just start it because if I use all my savings and then have to start over with 27, unfortunately or sadly, I'm just average. If you're 27 years old and you have no money and you start over with your career, you're starting where all the 27 years old start, with nothing. So seeing you now, 21 years old, 21 with 20 years old, that is amazing because you now can save all the small things that you have already in Bitcoin, and you have such a bright future ahead of you just because you got it 7 years earlier. I will calculate that with you live here. This is a Bitcoin calculator because this is real math. If you just did, let's say, what is a realistic amount? Let's say you can do on a monthly basis 8 years ago, because 7 years is not on this DCA calculator. Let's say 8 years ago. What is a realistic amount? Can $100, that realistic to save monthly?
Yeah.
Or should we go? Yeah, like, so let's go $100. 8 years ago, you started with $100 monthly to save in Bitcoin. Now, this is a total investment of $9,800, but you would have now $81,000 with that $100 per month. So think about that. You start your life with 20 years old and you save just $100 every single month, which isn't a big thing. Like, I know 20-year-olds that drop $100 when they're going out for one night, just because it's fun. Don't go out, like skip one Friday where you don't go out and put that money into Bitcoin. You will have, we talked about before getting to 0.1 Bitcoin. With that strategy over the last 8 years, you would have now 0.7 Bitcoin. You would have 7 times more than I said before. So if you now go ahead and say, okay, I have this podcast and I save every month a little bit in Bitcoin, girl, you have a huge future in front of you. Super bright, and you are independent from everything and anything, which is amazing to achieve. So Bitcoin, but again, it's hard to sell because your life will not change in 6 months or probably not even next year, but over 8 years, tremendously, absolutely changed. And if you go, and if we say the same experiment with not 8 years, but 10 years, you would have, instead of $80,000, $500,000, $100,000 would have, just starting 2 years earlier from that. And this is the magic of compound annual growth rate. And you would have now, instead of 0.7 Bitcoin, 2.7 Bitcoin. This changes everything in your life. And all of a sudden, I think 2 years early, even though you don't know you don't change your life in this first 2 years, can change your whole trajectory. How different will be your life with 27 years old if you have 80,000 or if you have 9,000? This is changing the life a little bit. But instead of 9,000, what if you have 588,000, which is almost 600,000? This is a return of 4,724%. This is unreal.
Oh my gosh.
So this is something where we have to make Gen Z clear that this is not something they will benefit from next year, but they will benefit over 1 decade. And a lot of Gen Z won't get it because they think more about tomorrow than they think about the next 10 years. But thinking about the next 10 years and thinking about the possibilities and the opportunities have, like, every decision you do today should be backed by, is it a good decision for the next 10 years? Is the job that I'm right now doing serving my goal that I have in 10 years? Yes or no? And this is also fun to talk with you. I talked I think on my podcast, like 200 episodes or something like that ago, about dating and Bitcoin. When you're young and I was in there, when you are like 16, 17 years old and you're in a bar, you think about the next 5 hours. You don't think about the 10 years implications of something. And you just go in a bar and like, oh yeah, like I just stick with that language. I just want to score today. And this is all what you do. And once you go with your mindset in a longer time frame of saying like, hey, every decision that I take today, I want to take for the next 10 years. So this filters out 99.99% of the people that are in the bar. If you say, I just want to score today, you might be okay with like 60% of the restaurant or like 70% of them. You're like, they're okay for tonight. I don't have to see them the next week. But if you go ahead and say like, oh, I only talk with someone if I could imagine being with them the next 10 years. And honestly, with dating, you should expand your time frame to like your life. Like if you have 80 years, you should like, can I imagine this with like 80 years? And this is something that I actually changed with around like 24. I think I changed my thinking on that. Like if I didn't have an interest in a girl for the next 20 years, I didn't have an interest in this girl for even 20 minutes. Why would I spend 20 minutes with a girl that I'm not interested in for the next 200 years? Mm-hmm. So the same thing is with finances. Why would you touch an asset that is only there for the next, I don't know, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and you just gamble on it? Stick with the asset that you can hold 100, 200 years. Think long term. Be smart. Be smart with 20 years, and you will thank yourself with 30 years and 40 years. And you will be talking legendary stories when you are 70 years old to your great grandchildren, because they will be like, fuck, how did you get to have 1 Bitcoin? Like 1 Bitcoin. Not even our country has 1 Bitcoin now if you live in a small country, but the US probably will have more. But this is the point I'm trying to make here very long. You have to catch the opportunity of Bitcoin as soon as humanly possible. Otherwise, you will always be in this loop of thinking short term. The same with dating. I think Gen Z maybe relates to that more than with financial terms. If you always think about just the night, you have a great night, then after a week, you're like, oh shit, like we're not compatible. There's nothing like I cannot even have a 1 hour conversation with this person. Then you're like, okay, dump him, dump her. And then you repeat this mistake all over again. Because you always think short term. You never stick with anyone. And at some point you will wake up with 35 and see like, oh shit, I'm lonely. And now all the good people are already gone because they're in healthy relationships and just starting out with their third kid. So, and I think especially, I think it's a random message now, but especially to young, attractive girls and boys, they have it even harder. Because they have a lot more options and they have to be very careful with whom they be, because just going with, that's a whole different topic with Bitcoins. I don't want to open it too far, but my point is like, think long term, think about the next 10, 20 years with Bitcoin for Gen Zs, and avoid being in this short-term trap with all your life, with just thinking about the next day, the next week, the next month. This can really trap you in a very bad spot. And with all you do, with your health, with your fitness, we can take, okay, one more tangent on that. We talked about Bitcoin, the financial asset. We talked about dating. Let's talk about food. If you think about the next 10 minutes, a donut won't hurt you. And it will feel amazing. And the donut will be a really, really nice food. You can sit in front of the TV and enjoy this donut and it will be freaking awesome. But if you choose to live with that donut for the next 100 years, you will be a fat guy or girl that can't live nicely, that is more in the hospital than with their family at home. And you will regret it all your life that you chose the donut route. Sticking with healthy, whole foods will be the best choice you will ever take in all of your life. And I know in Bitcoin, it's very controversial because there are the raw vegans that only eat plant-based, and there is the raw carnivores that only eat one steak a day. Eat whatever feels best for you, but don't eat processed junk food. Go away from sugar, get away from processed food, get away from all that shit. And so when I come back to my point that I was trying to make, think long-term for your money, adopt Bitcoin. Think long-term for relationships. Don't be with a girl or boy for the next week. Be with them for the next 100 years. Eat the food that your doctor will love in 100 years. And you're like, oh, be that one patient that walks into the doctor with 80 years old and they all say, how the heck are you so healthy? Be that one patient that will be studied when you are 100 years old because your lungs are as clean as they possibly can be. Arteries are as open as they possibly can be. And all those, I'm not a doctor, so I have no clue about that shit. But all those things. So be that one example. And if you nail health, relationship, and finance, man, you are up for a ride. You will be able to do whatever you dream to do. And then it's just about being mindful about not hustling too much, but being also mindful about hustling enough. I see 25-year-olds that I would recommend taking more breaks, going out in nature and taking 1 or 2 days off here and there. And then I see people with 25 years old that I feel like, man, you have to start doing something. Like you're just sleeping all your life. Maybe the fourth pillar, if we put in a framework of 4 pillars for the best life you can possibly have for a Gen Z person, the main one for finance is Bitcoin. The main one for relationships, think long term. The main one for health, eat things where the doctors will study you in 100 years time. And the last one is proof of work. Put in the proof of work that you can show your great grandkids of like, hey, I'm proud of what I've done here. See what I've done since I'm 21 years old till I always say 21 instead of 20, but till I'm 21 years old to like 50. And I'm super proud of the career I had, the company that I've built, the communities that I have served, the things that I've done with my life, because I've done out of my way to do the best I can. And I think that's what life is all about, serving communities and building a legacy for your family. But maybe that's just me.
I think if you're watching this and you are going to take one thing out of this entire video, take those 4 pillars. I mean, an incredible framework. I feel so like just mind blown just thinking about that. And I think for me, the biggest thing about coming into Bitcoin or hesitating to come into Bitcoin was just not being able to see it as something that was for long-term growth, not being able to see it as something that was more for my bloodline than it was for me. And I have conversations with my friends all the time where I try to orange pill them, but they had their rebuttal is always like, well, why wouldn't I take these $100 and put it in maybe the S&P 500 or put it in my Roth IRA instead, where it's like, it's all about that mindset. So if you can get yourself thinking long term, as Robin said, you're set. You're completely set. But I wanted to switch gears a little bit, and I wanted to, talk about you. You left your Fiat job to do Bitcoin content full time, which sounds like a dream life. I mean, that is like the point where I am trying to get to. But what was the scariest part about that decision?
The scariest part of the decision is the uncertainty that comes with it. The thing that you don't know about. The thing that you have to go on a journey that you don't have anyone else that can guide you. I didn't have anyone in my family or close by or any friends that have done anything similar to me. Didn't have an content creator friend that helped me through decision making. I didn't even had a lot of entrepreneurs in my direct environment. I mean, my dad is one, but now he also works at a company, and it was a whole different thing. He started it young with 2 other people. And when you then work since 5-6 years, I was working 6 years already in a company, and you like the people there. You like the environment. I was 6 years already in that job from 18, 19 years old till around 25 years old. You know all the processes. You know everything that's going on. And there's a job that really promotes you. Like I started as a software tester. Then I went into software development. Then I got more into customer relationships. I was sitting right next to the CEO, and I even founded with the CEO together a new branch office in a new country. And I was there for 1 year to build it up. I got every opportunity that you can imagine in the business world, in the career world. And I loved my environment. I loved the possibilities that I got. I loved the people that I worked with. Everything was amazing. Got a good job. I did not flee from anything. I did not flee from the Fiat job. A lot of people think maybe that I had a terrible Fiat job and that's why I'm in Bitcoin. I got a great Fiat job. I loved it. I was stoked to be in the job. I was so stoked that when I met people with work, outside of work, I still talked about work because I actually liked it, what we've done there. The only thing that I did not like was that it was about IT security and not about Bitcoin. And I do love Bitcoin, and it had nothing to do with Bitcoin. And I just felt that calling that there is something more important going on than IT security, than helping people to secure the internet. I felt Bitcoin is the more important thing that I can devote my life towards. And then if we zoom in this short time frame where I made this decision to jump towards this Bitcoin thing, I started content creating starting in 2023. I came from 0 to around 7,000 followers in this 1 year. And end of the year, I then started a podcast. On the 28th of November 2023, I launched my first podcast with Alessandro Ottovani. And it was my first podcast. We launched it and it got, I don't know, I think 50 people watched it at the time, something like that. So not a lot of people. It was just a new podcast. And then I got to the point of like, oh, I do like it. Like that was a fun conversation. And I got more people and more people and more people. Then on the Christmas party at my job, on the 22nd of December 2023, I got a message on my Twitter feed that Jeff Booth followed me. And I was like, wait, Jeff Booth just followed my Twitter? And I wrote him right at, like, I sat on the toilet when I scrolled through my Twitter feed at the Christmas party. And I saw that notification pop up and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I will invite Jeff Booth to my new podcast that hasn't been around for even a month. I invited Jeff Booth on my podcast when the podcast wasn't even around for a month. And I wrote him, hey Jeff, big fan of yours. I would love to host you on my new podcast. Would you love to join me? Like literally that was the message. Like that was like very short. I did not try to sell him on my podcast because there was nothing to sell him on. It was just a very small podcast that was just getting started. And he wrote, of course, write me on this email. And I was like, fuck, how the heck does Jeff Booth want to be on my podcast? And then at this point, by the way, I haven't earned one single euro, one single Satoshi, one single whatever with anything I've done. I've created content every single day on Twitter and 1 to 3 hours every single day on Twitter, all of 2023, and started a whole new podcast, everything for free. And I didn't get anything for that for a whole year. And on Christmas Eve, I got the message from Twitter that I can apply for monetization. And I was stoked. Like, I loved it. I told all my family. I told everyone. I came to my girlfriend and said, like, I will be rich. I was so stoked that Twitter accepted me in the monetization program. This was the first time I got close to making money with what I do online. I know on the, 6th or 5th of January at the gym with my good friend Stefan, I was there and I got my first paycheck in Bitcoin. And not my first paycheck in dollars, but it was because of the Bitcoin content. And it was $300. And I was like, how the heck? This is the best $300 that I've ever gotten. I don't know. I earned I don't even know what I earned with my company at that time, but like tens of thousands of euros, tens of thousands of dollars for that whole year. I have no clue. I've never looked it up. What's the whole year salary? But all of this tens of thousands of dollars wasn't even close to the importance for me of seeing that, put value up on the internet and I get money for that. Like I created value and people pay me for that. I was out of this world. And then I reached out to the only CEO I knew in the Bitcoin sphere that had a Bitcoin company. The only one that I knew. That was Daniel from 21 Bitcoin. It's a local Bitcoin only exchange in Austria. And I reached out to him like, hey, I start my podcast. I would love to talk about a partnership. And he's like, oh, of course, here, come to Salzburg. He's in Austria. And so we met up and I was like giving him his crazy plan of like, hey, like, do you want to support me? I have a podcast. I grew my Twitter, like here, there, like growth numbers and all of that shit. And he was saying like, oh yeah, I have to check it out. And like, I don't know if we can do it. And I never told him that. Maybe he listens to the podcast and I have to send it to him, this episode. But I thought he will say no. He just said like, oh, I will let you know next week. And I was sure he says no. I was like, this failed. And I had a 1 hour long home drive from Salzburg to where I actually live, where we met. I cried in the car driving home, talking with my girlfriend because I thought my dreams are over. Okay, those $300 is all I get. I cannot get a company on board. So obviously this Bitcoin, this podcasting thing is nothing more than simply a hobby. Nobody will give me money for that. And this was January 2024. And this is really hard. If you see hope and this hope gets destroyed and you're like, shit, like, this cannot be. And then I got this weird motivation of like, I'll still keep trying. Like, I know this is a failure, but I want to keep going. And next week I reached out to another company or maybe they even reached out to me, but somehow I got involved in another company called Relay. And this is not a Bitcoin only exchange. And they are in Swiss. And we had a meeting set on Thursday. And then Daniel also texted me, let's have a meeting on Thursday. So I was prepared that Daniel would just say, like, oh, no, we won't do it on Thursday. And then I was like, okay, maybe Relay is a chance that they can do something. And I told him, hey, I want to make this my full-time thing. So I need some money per month to make it happen. And Relay told me, sorry, like right now we can't do this. By the way, to be totally fair, if I would be in Relay's shoes, I would also not give me money back then. But then 21 Bitcoin came along and I got in the call with Daniel and he said, hey, I want to support you. I want to give you money. Hey, I want to have the show with you. Hey, I was feeling so dumb that I thought he will say no. And I cried just a week earlier. And I went down, like I hugged my girlfriend, like we celebrated, like all, like this was something like I had this hope that it was possible. Like, oh, fuck, I can quit my job and I can make this work, maybe. And then I think the real hardship, and I'm sorry for anyone that listens to this long story, the real hardship really began then for 2 weeks. Because as I told you before, there was this thing that I've done with the IT security company I was there for 6 years. I love the people. It was, as weird as it sounds, my only constant in life at this point, like outside of my family. But I had probably 3 different girlfriends in those 6 years. I had all different kinds of sports and political engagement and different things, like so much change in those 6 years, but they were always there. They always had a salary coming to me every single month and supported my life. I never needed my parents. They were always there for me for 6 years. And this, just saying goodbye to that was the hardest thing till now that I ever had to do. I had such hard nights dealing with that reality, dealing with what happens if this goes wrong? What happens if the sponsorship doesn't work out? What happens if this all just goes to zero? What happens if nobody really listens to my show? At that time, I didn't even had 1,000 subscribers. Like I was like at 500, 400 subscribers, something like that. I was very small still. It grew nicely, but still very small. And so many sleepless nights and so often that I cried so much. I've never asked a question so many times on YouTube, like, should I quit my job? Like I watched every single video on YouTube with the title, should I quit my job? Like every single one, like thousands of them, like the whole night. I came back from work at 6 p.m., 8 and watched hundreds of videos on that. It was the hardest freaking decision that I've ever done. And the moment I quit my job, it was a Friday, the moment I actually did it, and maybe I should talk a little bit why I did it. This was the quote. You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. And on those multiple streams of content that I watched on YouTube, I don't remember a single one of those videos that I've watched today. But I remember those 20 minutes of speech that he gave in front of like a school or university, where he said this one sentence. And this one sentence stuck with me ever since. Like, why? Why would I do something that I liked it, but I didn't want that to be my profession. I wanted to do something that I love. I wanted to do something in Bitcoin. Why should I do this? Because I can fail in that IT security job as well. They can kick me out every single month. It's not something that I have a guaranteed job for all of my life. They can go bankrupt. They cannot even give me those guarantees. So why would I do this if I have a chance of actually doing what I love? If I have the tiniest chance of doing what I love, why don't I do that? And this is then the reason of like why I actually decided of like, let's just do it. Let's just go ahead and jump in there. And I don't recommend that to people actually. Like if you have a steady job and you want to do this YouTube thing, like just do it on the weekend, build it bigger up till you have more proof that it actually will work. Because it will save you a lot of sleepless nights. It will save you a lot of hardships. We can also get into that later on. But I then did that and I told my boss like, hey, that's it. And I want to do this thing. And it was very hard, but he was very understanding. By the way, everyone thinks their boss will kill them when you quit. But actually, they are quite understanding. Because if he is a boss for more than a year, he probably had already someone quitting on him. And I heard a quote on that. If you're struggling with quitting your job just because you don't want to dissatisfy your boss, if he is in any way, shape or form bad to you and not supportive, you are lucky to get off this job. Like he doesn't deserve you. And if he's very supportive and he's doing nothing than just promoting it and saying like, oh yeah, you should go for it. That sounds like a great opportunity. Then like, what do you fear for? Like, do you fear that someone supports you? What is the fear here? So you either get out of a toxic boss-employee relationship or you have a supportive friend that actually supports you in your way. So there's nothing to fear on that side, but I feared a lot on like his reaction. Then I did it. And I remember sitting in the car and driving home. I had music running up. I was singing. I had the windows down. Like it was a Friday afternoon traffic. I was stuck in traffic for too long and I was just singing and dancing in my car alone like that. I was just alone there. It was one of the happiest moments in my life, honestly. It will probably be a beat down the road when I get a kid and all of those things and marriage. This was seriously one of my happiest moments till now. And I cherish those moments so much. Like this is what life is all about. Like having those experiences and telling your like it's great to talk with you here, but I'm very, very big on telling those stories to my great-great-grandkids when I'm 80 years old on like how and what I did with 25. Like that's the shit I really look forward to. I just want to end this very long section of mine saying, you can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
I think that is a beautiful place to close out this entire video. Uncertainty, taking chances. I'm really glad you took the chance. And if you're watching this and you have not checked out Robin's podcast yet, please do. It is such an incredible podcast. It's so engaging to listen to, and you get new content every single day. So how can you beat that? This was awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And just because my podcast is called the Orange Peel Podcast, what is one, maybe book or podcast or other resource that you would recommend to Orange Peel someone who is just starting out in Bitcoin?
I love, by the way, the Orange Peel podcast. Like I've never, I've never seen that before. That's really, really cool. Very creative.
Thank you.
It might be an unsatisfying answer, but it's different for the individual person. I got a call 2 weeks ago from my dad's buddy that called me saying like, hey, like I want to buy Bitcoin. Like, what do I do? And like, how can I get educated? I can give him books and I can give him all these things, but he mostly needs someone that guides him through that. And then you can point him to maybe an exchange or a service provider, something like that takes care of him because he doesn't have the time to educate himself completely. But I still would like to give someone a lot of resources to make him started. So I usually have in my phone like a list of links, podcast episodes, books and things ready to go to just send to people. So if someone is like interested in Bitcoin, I can just copy, paste it and put it on WhatsApp and just here you go, you have it. Check it out or don't check it out. It's on you. You have to educate yourself. Then with people that you really want to educate, you want to really orange peel them, but they really don't get it. I would say stay patient. People don't get it right away. People take a long time. I needed 3 years. I was the opinion that Bitcoin is a scam for over 3 years. So take your time with them, be patient with them. And if they're open to being orange peeled, ask them questions like, oh, what is money? Like, what do you think is money? Like, what do you already know about Bitcoin? Be the listener more than you're the talker. I guess like see where they are in their journey. And depending on where they are in their journey of learning about Bitcoin, then give them some recommendations on a book, on something that you can think. Also magical is always what has resonated with you, because you are an individual that has preferences and a mindset and your friends are most likely not that far away from your value and mindset set than someone else might be. So the way how you got Bitcoin might actually be the perfect way for other people also to get Bitcoin. If there's like a podcast episode that you saw, like, oh, that resonated me so hard, and that's how I really got orange pilled, give them this podcast episode, because chances are they are getting orange pilled by the same episode that you also got, because it had something in them. So if I had to give something, I do love Seyfried's book still. It's been around since 2018. Like nothing really has changed on the fundamentals in Bitcoin since 2010, 2008, 2009. And this is still a great book, but it can be intimidating. It can be also a bad first choice. It might not be the best first book for someone, but definitely make sure you give a person and content piece that fits for him. Some people don't like to listen to podcasts. Some people don't like to read books. Some people don't. They need other things. Maybe for Gen Z, maybe just keep sending them Bitcoin TikToks, like here one. And at some point they're like, oh, this sounds interesting. Maybe I actually pick up a book. So my very unsatisfying answer to your great question is it depends on who you speak to and make it fit for them. We have the great honor and we can be very grateful that there is a lot of different content pieces already out there, and there's a lot of different podcasts and books out there.
There is so much knowledge to consume in Bitcoin, and I feel like every single time I learn something, I feel like I know it, and then I discover something completely new, and it's like, oh, you actually probably, I don't even know 5% of what Bitcoin is. but that's part of what is making this entire journey so much more fun. So thank you, Robin, for being here. Thank you for making that time out. I had an incredible conversation, and I hope you enjoyed your time on Orange Peel.
Of course, I loved it. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. And if you want to follow Robin's work, I will insert links in the description, and I'll add a little banner up here as well. So if you're Gen Z listening to this, remember that Bitcoin is our future to build. Don't wait for the system to fix itself. Learn Bitcoin, take action, and find your place in this community. Until then, stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay orange-pilled. I'm Nikki, and I'll see you next week.
This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.